The second thing I want to mention, since I see the distinguished chairman of the Banking Committee here, is that I continue to hope for and argue for the amendment that I have proposed that will do something, I think, very helpful for something that bedevils constituents in every single one of our states, which is exorbitant, ridiculous interest rates. I think every day in the mail, in every one of our states, people are opening from the big credit card companies offerings, proposals that, particularly when certain tricks or traps are triggered, kick them into 30% or higher interest rates. It is not too long ago in all of our lifetimes that a solicitation like that would have been a matter to bring to the attention of the authorities in our states, because it would have been illegal under state law to charge that kind of reprehensible interest rate. And we as a Congress never decided that we were going to overrule all those state laws that had existed since the founding of the Republic, a tradition of interest rate regulation that in our culture goes back to the Code of Hammurabi, goes back to Roman law. We never decided as a Congress, oh, well, we're not going to allow states to protect their consumers any longer, protect their citizens any longer against exorbitant, outrageous interest rates. It happened in a strange, backhanded, almost inadvertent way. It began with a statute in 1863 that said that a transaction was governed by law based on where it was located. Well, in 1863, there was not a lot of interstate banking. And so there didn't need to be a lot of discussion about what located meant. But by 1978, interstate banking was a fairly common thing. And the question came to the Supreme Court what that word located in that Civil War statute meant. And in a very unheralded decision at the time, a decision that didn't appear to be of any significant consequence, the United States Supreme Court said, well, if you've got a bank located in one state and a consumer located in another state, the law is going to be the state of the bank. It had to be one or the other. They chose the state of the bank. The Marquette decision, it was called, and involved the presiding officer state, Minnesota, and the decision said, well, it's going to be the bank. So didn't seem very controversial. Why not? The problem was that the banking industry began to figure out that there was a loophole here. They began to figure out that if they could go to the states with the worst consumer protection laws in the country, or if they could go to a friendly governor and say, hey, I'll make you a deal. You clear out your consumer protection laws, and we'll come and we'll locate a big high-rise business full of call center people in your state. They could go, and from that state, they could operate nationally. And because of this funny 1978 decision from an 1863 law, bit by bit, all of the constitutional, federalist, states' rights protections, where sovereign states have the right to protect their own citizens against outrageous and exorbitant interest rates, became ineffectual. We never decided that as a Congress. If we'd had that debate, I will venture that it would have gone the other way. It would be preposterous for us as a Congress to look out across America and say, okay, we're going to pass a law that says that the worst state for consumer protection regulation is going to be the state that governs. Obviously, it would create a race to the bottom. Obviously, it would completely disenfranchise home states trying to protect their own citizens from states a country away that, frankly, couldn't care less. A Rhode Island consumer being victimized is not the state of South Dakota's problem. It just isn't. We would never have passed that law. It would have been an outrageous law to have passed. And yet, because of this funny, quirky Supreme Court decision, that is the way the law in practice developed, because smart bank lawyers figured out this trick and have taken advantage of it. And it's not just consumers that are getting clobbered as a result. It's also unfair to local banks. A Rhode Island bank is under Rhode Island interest rate laws. But an out-of-state bank, the big Wall Street banks with their big credit card subsidiaries, they can play by their own rules, by the worst rules in the country. A Rhode Island bank, a Connecticut bank, a Minnesota bank, they got to play by local rules. It just isn't fair to local lenders to have this discrepancy. And because it's bad for consumers, because consumers all across this country are paying interest rates now that would have been illegal just 2 or 3 decades ago, because it is anti-competitive, because it allows the biggest banks to compete unfairly against local community banks, against Main Street banks disadvantaged against these big Wall Street monsters. Because nobody in Congress ever made a decision, nor would we ever have made a decision, that this was okay. It's time we closed this loophole. And I look forward to the chance when we return to have the chance to get a vote on that. I very much hope that it will be a bipartisan vote, because the principles that the Republican Party has espoused about local control, states' rights, protecting local institutions against big out-of-state national entities, federalism, and our common interest across this floor in consumer protection, all suggest that it's the kind of thing that really shouldn't divide us, Republican against Democrat. This is closing a loophole that never should have existed, that we never would have voted for if we'd had the chance to vote for it, and that has resulted in immense harm to the public of all of our states as a result of these exorbitant interest rates. As I said, the interest rate solicitation that is landing in Minnesota today, that is landing in Connecticut today, and that is landing in Rhode Island today would have been a matter to bring to the authorities, but for this loophole.